Hi guys. I was wondering if you could help me find my pet. You see, I left it at home yesterday, and then I come here today, and I hear some Slayer, some Doom Slayer has broken in and freed him, and that he flew away under a portal. And I just can't see myself, I can't see that myself. That will never happen. My pet is a nice guy. Like, he's a good boy. So anyway, he looks kind of like this. If you could help, that would be awesome. Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Doom Dark Ages. Recently we talked about Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, and today it's Doom's Dark Ages turn. And I have to say, Doom Dark Ages is completely fantastic. In my opinion, it is the best of the three, partially because of the combat system and partially because of the entire environment that you fight in. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Doom Dark Ages is essentially just the newest Doom. I think it takes place before the other Dooms, as we are still sort of on friendly terms with the Creepmaker, which we aren't in Doom Eternal. So I think this is before the events of Doom 2016 and Eternal. However, the story is actually kind of good here. Whereas in Doom Eternal and Doom 2016, I would call them majorly just existing to move along the plot unless you read the lore tabs. In Doom Dark Ages, there are quite a few cutscenes and quite a bit that happens throughout the story that sort of pushes the narrative forward, even having me care about it. Like, I actually really enjoyed the story here, something which I wasn't really expecting. I went in with the idea that, okay, it's just gonna be another glory kill fiesta and I'm gonna love it. But it wasn't just a glory kill fiesta. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of that too, but it was also a game that sort of had a really interesting story and subplot and characters and development of said characters. It was all good. It was awesome. I genuinely really loved this crusade against the demons this time. Now, one of the biggest new mechanics in Doom Dark Ages is the shield. The shield can be used for a lot of different things, but the primary use for it is blocking or parrying attacks. Now, this in and of itself doesn't sound anything like crazy, but it really is. It completely changes up how I play Doom. Because in the older Doom games, like Eternal as an example, I had the ability to dodge attacks. I viewed the same way I viewed Dark Souls and Sekiro. Doom Eternal was the dodging equivalent of Doom, so that was the Dark Souls where you had to avoid the attacks of the enemies, you couldn't just face tank them. Doom Dark Ages, however, allows you to do that exact face tanking if you have the timing and can hit the correct attacks. You'll still have to parry and dodge a little bit and weave around a certain amount of attacks, but it is far less so than in Eternal, because the shield can be used to send attacks hurting back at the enemy. And sometimes with a certain upgrade you can stun them like you have seen me do in this gameplay, because that is just fantastic. It's really fun. And yeah, it is kind of broken. I will fully admit that I think the entire idea of parrying really is cool. However, I think in Doom's case, what ends up happening is that the timing is a little bit too generous, even on things like Ultra Items, which is, I think, the normal equivalent in other games. But like, it is fairly easy to hit the parries in my opinion, and from what I've seen and like looked up, veterans of Doom who play a lot of these games, who has completed it in like Ultra Nightmare, has also mentioned that they feel like it's an easier game overall. But I don't necessarily consider that a bad thing, as that just means that it is more accessible to more people. And I think parrying is especially a unique mechanic that I'm happy to see in a Doom game, because it means that there's a big audience who gets to try one of the most fun ways of combat. And it is one of the most fun ways, in my opinion, of doing combat, because it forces you into a position where you will often end up fighting for your life. Because yeah, you will miss a few parries, and you will miss this and that, and you'll end up with no HP, somehow pulling through a giant horde and completely obliterating all of them, while spending most of that time being at like 0 or 1 HP. It is really fucking cool, and it creates a really nice system where it sort of always feels like you have a chance. There's never a point where it's just like, yep, see you later. But it always feels like there is a good timing there, and I love that sort of skillful play that these games is brought up with. Now, one more ability of the shield is the shield bash, because of course the Doom Slayer can rocket thrust himself into a group of enemies, creating an AoE explosion effect that completely obliterates things around you. Of course, that makes sense. He's the Doomslayer. Of course he can do that. And the shield can be used like that. So not only is it, like I've said before, a tool to which you can use for parrying and blocking, but it is also a movement tool, as you can get around the combat arenas using that. So let's say you are in a bad point. You are on low HP. Well, what can you do? You could try to fight the enemy and see if you can win. You can also use the shield, hit a smaller enemy, kill them, get a little bit of HP back, find a slightly bigger enemy around that, because now you are kind of far away from the like big boss enemy that has sort of damaged you a lot. And then you can finish them for a lot more HP and thereby get yourself into the fight. Like you regain your HP and you can go back into the fight. And that gameplay loop just keeps repeating a lot. And that's really fun because it is a legitimately really good gameplay loop. Now, what would a Doom game be without the weapons? Of course, in Doom Dark Ages, you have some of the classics returning. You have your combat shotgun and your super shotgun, my beloved. And the super shotgun is coming back in its new, more glorious form. You see, because of the way that the shield works, where you can parry an attack, it makes it so that certain enemies, especially the ones that attack fast, they have a thing where you can parry, immediately use the shotgun, then parry again, immediately use the shotgun, and it becomes sort of just my favorite weapon again. It feels really good to use overall, and it's just a gameplay loop of parrying that really emphasizes well with like aggressive shotgun play. And things like the super shotgun definitely fits really well into that sort of entire meta. Now, one more thing that I have to say I have kept from you is that the shield has one more use. You can throw it. Now, why would you throw your shield? Well, for one, it comes back to you. It's good at cleaning out a lot of trash tier mobs. You can throw through all the fodder and it will cut them all up, like just midway through, cut them up, and it will return to you. Now, one other use that this has is in Doom Dark Ages, you can charge up armor. Armor can be charged up by shooting it, so if an enemy has a lot of armor on it, you can charge that armor up, throw the shield at it, and then it will explode. Essentially creating a huge AoE effect that will take out all the fodder mobs around that. So that is one of the big reasons why you will do that. And certain guns are better at charging the armor up than others. Things like the new chain gun that has a big old wrecking ball on the front that you shoot out like a yo-yo of death is really good at this sort of thing where you charge it up, you shoot it at the armor, it has a little AoE effect, and a lot of the armor just becomes damaged, and then you can throw your shield at it and instantly break that armor. Now, there are a lot of new guns as well, and they all have their own little thing, but the death yo-yo or the chain gun is definitely a highlight just because it's so silly. But another big highlight for me has to be the Pulverizer and the Ravager, which are essentially guns that are using skulls as ammo. So you put the skull in and it sort of grinds the skull out and you shoot the shards from the skull. And the difference is that one has a narrow sort of like field of view when you're shooting it, the other doesn't. The other one has a huger and bigger sort of effect, or like a bigger area that it hits in. And they are really fun as they're fully automatic, so you just hold them in and you run through the enemies. One is better for single target damage, the other is better for non-single target damage. And I love them both equally. They are my Deafy boys and I fucking enjoy them. They are so cool as sort of a concept where you like crush a skull and the spikes from the crushing of the skull are being used as like the ammunition. It is genuinely one of my favorite new additions to the arsenal in Doom Dark Ages, and something that I really love that they have added. And it doesn't stop there. You see, we don't have a BFG anymore because this is the Middle Ages. There is no guns. Of course not. We don't have the super shotgun or whatever, but that's a different story. No BFG. No, we have the BFC. The big fucking crossbow now makes a return, or well, not a return. It exists for the first time, and I love it. It is essentially the BFG, but without the AoE effect when you're shooting it. So now it only has a big effect when it hits an enemy. It doesn't kill anything around it while it's flying there, but it's almost hit scan. It is incredibly cool and fun, and I really enjoy it a lot. It is just one of those weapons that just makes or breaks my thing. I love the BFG, but the BFC and the way we get it, I think is just chef's kiss. I love it. Now, other than that, when it comes to the combat, the boss fights have also been reworked quite a bit, in my opinion. You see, we have seen this sort of ramping up with the boss fights in Doom, where Doom Eternal had a lot of dodging. Doom 2016 had boss fights that also required a little bit of dodging. And Doom Dark Ages decides to look more at Sekiro and have you parry a bunch of attacks. And I love them. These boss fights are genuinely really cool and almost ends up in that sort of category where you have to play a rhythm game to understand the attacks. And it makes it really fun. It's a combination of Nier sometimes, it feels like, with the red balls that can be shot out that you have to parry the green one and sort of that sort of thing. And it sort of just becomes a dance of you learning the rhythm of a boss and then getting really good at it. Things like the Komodo is a boss that I got really good at by the end because I replayed the level where I was like 4 times to get everything in it. And like, you end up getting really good at these boss fights because it is a rhythm game. It isn't necessarily all about you shooting and running and gunning and dodging and all of that sort of thing. No, it's a rhythm game. You know that certain bosses will attack in the donk, 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 donk rhythm, and then you know that is when you have to click because it's all about rhythm. And that is one of the things I loved about Sekiro. It was that sort of rhythmy gameplay to it. And if you can do that, and when you get the timing down, you also get that sort of stagger bar where you stagger the enemy and you can then do massive damage to them. It is so fucking satisfying, and I really wish more first-person shooter had these mechanics. This is the sort of thing that I love because, yeah, it's a little bit hard, or it can be, especially if you don't have a lot of rhythm or like you don't really play a lot of those sort of games. I think it can be a little bit hard, but I fucking love it. It's just so satisfying. Especially when you have these bigger bosses where you go bong, 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 and then they like fall down and you go up with your flail and hit them. Because yeah, in Doom, you have a flail. You don't just have a flail, you also have a mace in your fist with spikes on. But you have a bunch of these medieval melee combat options instead of your just stand-up punch, or your glory punch, as it was called in Doom Eternal. And they also have the AoE effect and can be upgraded. The flail can light targets on fire, but my favorite is the mace that one-shots most enemies. I just gotta admit, there's something really cool about a mace. It might just be my Oblivion harp where I'm playing with a blunt whip to level up my blunt skill at the moment. But I just really fucking enjoy the idea of running around with a mace from hell and then just one bonking demons with it. It's just really fun. It really is. It's such an enjoyable gameplay loop. And it's all fed into because every time you parry an attack, you get more melee energy back, so you can just keep going with it. It's really nice. It really is. And on top of all of that, like I said, you can get different upgrades for your shield. One of them, of course, being the one that stuns the enemies when you parry an attack. But you can also get things such as an auto turret that pops up and auto targets enemies. You can get an earthquake. You can get holy daggers that get shot around you like one of those Elden Ring magic builds and just goes directly into the enemies. It's so cool, and it combines the things that I love most about Doom Eternal and Doom in general, which is the medieval aesthetic with sci-fi. And that is one thing that Doom Dark Ages does so well. You see, because Doom Dark Ages takes place in the Middle Ages, or like the medieval times, you have the Sentinels being a thing now, like more prominently. It isn't just past their prime, they are in their prime right fucking now. So you get to see the armies of the Sentinels, you get to walk through the castles, you get to see their weapons and all of that sort of stuff. And it's all very medieval. And then they also have these giant mechs and spaceships and guns and laser guns. And it all becomes very sci-fi. And I love when those two aesthetics meet and sort of clash a little bit. And you somehow find a way to really make it work. It's why I also like the Awoken in Destiny and their storylines. I love that sort of medieval, not medieval, fantasy, sci-fi aesthetic coming together. And Doom Dark Ages does it really well. No more is it shown than in the mission from Mission 5, I think, where you have this big area, you're exploring this big like combat battle arena area, and you can go through towns, and you can walk into the cliff side of it. It's all there. It is all really prominently shown in that level. And it's also at that level that you have a bunch of the secrets you can find, because I love the secrets in these games. I love finding them, I love hunting them, and more than anything, I just love how they look. Because in Doom Dark Ages, there's only toys now. No more soundtracks, no more all of that jazz. You are now all about finding small toy figurines. And they are so cute. They are really adorable most of the time. A lot of these are like super small and like look maybe a little bit like a YouTube's. Like they kind of can have that vibe to it. But they look really cute, especially when you just kill a big demon and then you see it in this little toy form after you've explored an area. And some of them are hidden really fucking well, especially the ones that requires you to go around and look for a dog statue, and then you have to break all of the dog statues, and then you can get your upgrades. Now, there are other secrets than just the toys, of course. You can again upgrade your weapons. How do you do that? Well, you collect gold. Whereas in the other games you had upgrade points, now you have gold. And it essentially acts the exact same way. Your gold will just literally be the currency that you use to upgrade your guns now. However, you can also upgrade them using rubies and primordial crystals. You see, rubies are the sort of tier 2 upgrade level of your weapons, and the primordial crystal is used to sort of get into the mastery rank of that weapon. So you have like 3 to 4 upgrades on every weapon. I think this one does 4 upgrades, the rest are 3 if I'm being accurate here. And the thing is, you have to max level them all to get the mastery challenge, which usually is a lot easier to complete in Doom Dark Ages, as usually it just requires you to play the game. You don't need to do anything special, you just need to use the weapon while you're playing the game, and then you can sort of passively always unlock. And you might get a little bit of a benefit. I sure as hell felt like I got a benefit from completing the mastery challenge, but it wasn't anything that was like explicitly shown. However, what is shown is the new skin that you unlock, because Doom Dark Ages is one of those games that I have to give praise for having unlockable cosmetics in the game. You can unlock the golden skin for all your weapons by just completing the mastery challenge. You can complete and unlock skins by finding them in the game world, or even more importantly, by completing some of the challenges that you have to do, which, while they can be a little bit harder to do sometimes, most of the time it is just play the game and you will passively unlock them. And I love that. I love the fact that it's not something that I have to consciously think about all the time, like a Destiny bounty where I have to be like, okay, I need to kill this many fallen with this ability, and I need to this, and this. No, fuck that. It is just, you go in there, you need to kill a bunch of enemies, you just kill them, and usually you can passively unlock most of everything that you would otherwise need. The only exception to that can be the rocket launcher, as its perk is called cannibalism, and cannibalism allows you, after parrying an attack, to get health by doing self-damage along with damaging an enemy. So if you walk into an enemy and shoot that enemy while you're walking into it with a rocket, you get a little bit of health regen from that. And it sort of emphasizes again that aggressive nature, and it allows you to do that with the rocket launcher. And I love that sort of thing. I think it's really cool, as well, the perk just makes the rocket a little bit better, but it mastery challenge itself where you have to deal a set amount of points. Yeah, I had to sort of play around that a little bit more to complete that one. But most of the other ones are just passively unlocked by just playing with the gun. It's like damage an enemy or get this ammo while playing with this gun. And while you'll see me look up the challenges a lot while I was playing, it wasn't something that I consciously was always thinking about. However, one thing that I was consciously thinking about while playing was finding the secrets, which are just on that perfect premise of not being so hard it is impossible to find them, and not being so easy that they are obvious to find. Most of the time, I felt like they were perfectly well hidden. There wasn't anything that was super hard to figure out, but it wasn't like the easiest thing in the world either for me, with the one exception being the dog statues. They could take me a little bit of time sometimes, because in Doom Dark Ages, you have to find the statues of dogs, or as I call them, puppies. And once you've found the puppy statue, you need to throw your shield at them to destroy them, which then gets them back to the place where they were originally, and then it unlocks an upgrade for. It's really cool. It's just a nice little thing that you can do, and a nice little puzzle to sort of have to solve. I really enjoyed them a lot. I think they were really fun to do, and it also facilitated exploring the maps. Speaking of which, if you've watched my previous 2 videos on Doom, you know one of the things I praised the most about that game was the fact that in the environment, that's like all well and good, and it's a fine combat arena. But what is outside the environment, the background that you're fighting in, the thing that you'll notice while you're blowing the faces and bodies of demons, yeah, they were really cool. In Doom Dark Ages, they are even better. If Doom Eternal has cool environments, Doom Dark Ages takes that to another level, basically throughout the entirety of the game. From having big, giant mechs fighting titan demons, to being in the realm of Cthulhu, finding, you know, these sort of old ones flying around everywhere. 2, literally having a Subnautica level, it's just all so fucking good. It all sets the stakes really high and keeps the tension up while you're playing, and it gives you something to look at while you're exploring for secrets. I have to say, it's so fucking cool. I love it. It was to the point where I had a hard time picking which one I wanted to be the thumbnail for this video, because there were just too many to pick from, and I usually take my own screenshots and whatnot from my thumbnails. So it became one of those things where I looked around a lot for it, and I genuinely really loved the environment. They were so pretty in my opinion, and they had a lot of different color hues as well, and that's something that means a lot to me. I like the fact that they weren't really static. It wasn't like it was all brown or gray or sci-fi spaceshipy or whatever. No, you had your purple hues, you had some blue hues, fuck a floor pirate ship in there. Like, there were so many different colors, and the game made them mesh together really well without it feeling out of place, and I appreciate that a lot. I think that is really a sort of nice thing that Doom Dark Ages did on an artistic level. And now to a final few things I wanted to touch on. The soundtrack is still really good despite the fact that Mike Gordon isn't there. I personally prefer the work Mike Gordon did, like Doom Eternal and Doom 2016, but the soundtrack here definitely isn't bad at all. It is still very popping and very metally. I also have to say that the UI is fantastic. I am a really big fan of having the little Doom guy figurine, like the little head from the old Doom games, like the really old ones, down there to display health again. I think that's really cute. I really like that. I also have to say, my biggest gripe with the game is the glory kill system. As to put it very bluntly, the glory kill system doesn't really make a return in the same way it did in Eternal and 2016 as in Doom Dark Ages. The glory kill system is sort of much faster. Essentially, you just run up, you punch the demon in most of the glory kills, and that's it. Like, it is a very quick finisher. It is nothing that really goes into like these explicit glory kills that Doom 2016 and Eternal had. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it is a styling choice. I personally would have preferred to have the old glory kills back, and there are some of them. Like, you can still, if you jump into a finisher, you can still stop on a demon set and all of that. And there are also finishes where you cut them up with the sword shield. Like, it's cool. There's a lot of good finishes here, but I just wish there were more. And then I also wanted to say that the game is about 18 hours for me in length. I will leave it up to you whether or not you think it is worth the price, because the game is priced at like the 79 euros, I think, the 80 bucks mark for like the normal variant of the game. And I personally don't like the fact that games have gotten up to that pricing point, but I will say Doom Dark Ages is a really fun game for the time that you play it. Now, the way that I play it, and if you want to save a little bit of money, the way I would recommend you play it is through Game Pass, as you can buy Game Pass for much less than that asking price, and then play Doom Dark Ages on launch like I did. Now, whether or not that is worth it for you, I'll leave up entirely to your own interpretation. That is up to you to decide. I will, however, say that I think Doom Dark Ages is a really fun game, and I think it is well worth playing if you get the chance, whether it be through Game Pass or whether you buy it on Steam or something entirely different. I think it's a really good game. And that is really the end of my sort of talk about Doom Dark Ages. I also do want to say a lot of this footage was live streamed over at Twitch. So if you like me, if you like the videos that I do and all of that, and you want to see more, and you want to be a part of the environment and community and whatever, then head over there if you want to talk with me. I won't be live streaming every day. I am planning to live stream a lot more now that I'm getting off my college for like the summer break, and then I hope I can start on my master's degree starting after the summer. But like, if you want to hang out, if you want to talk, if you want to see more of me, you can go over there. If not, that's also fine. Regardless, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't, then don't. That's okay. I just hope you have a wonderful day regardless. And remember, my Slayer brothers out there, rip and tear.